So who's on the call with us today? Obviously, I introduced myself. My name's Brooke Edwards, Project Director here at GSLI. We actually have one of our clients on board, Larkin Simpson, and he is the Executive Vice President of Louisiana Central. We're so excited to have him on. We love Larkin. Our joke here is that it's not really a joke. It is our catchphrase, Team Larkin all the way. And we also have Hannah Acosta. She is on with us today as a social media manager for Ugly Mug Marketing. And Ugly Mug Marketing is Louisiana Central's marketing firm. And they just went through a big rebranding. So we're excited to hear some of those insights of working together to rebrand Louisiana Central. So real quick, for those of you guys who don't know us, we are Global Site Location Industries. We solve site location challenges from two different perspectives. So we're a full service site selection consultant and an economic development marketing agency. So we cater to two sides of the equation. And our unique approach of being double-sided on the perspective has led to 26 years of facility expansions, relocations, and community job creation. For those of you who have not gone into our project portal, this is where we house all of our active expansion projects that we're currently working with. I am the project director and we have a project development team. So we actually coordinate all of the qualification, all of the project management, site visits, everything for the projects that we're working with. And currently, it's cool because Eric isn't on the call today, but he's actually on a site visit with Project Quick Charge, and they're touring multiple different facilities today. And he sends his best wishes, but one of the projects, Quick Charge, is currently in the portal. So if you want to go and look at that and see some of the requirements and what the project's looking for, you can go to new.gsliprojectportal.com to view all of our active expansion projects, get all the project details, make a submission, and track most of those submissions that way. For those of you who haven't been on a Prospect Live webinar, we actually will take a prospect onto a live webinar, talk all about their project, and open up the floor for questions, and the communities can ask anything that they want to know about a project. And we've had incredible feedback as we continue to do those. I set them up with Ashley Kleinsorge, and we absolutely love getting to just create some transparency about our projects and let the communities really feel like they truly understand the needs and motivations of a project. So we love conducting those, and we hope that you can make it on our next one. So I want to introduce Louisiana Central to you and Larkin Simpson. He is a client of ours. He is an elite member, so he works the projects in the portal. And he also is a Lighthouse member. So he does an email nurture campaign with us to attract a lot of manufacturing, different types of businesses and industry into his area. So Larkin, I'm going to hand it over to you, let you introduce yourself, and we're excited to have you on board.
Very good. Thank you, Brooke. Yeah, I want to talk about that elite service a little bit later on. We talk about the social media because what we do actually plays into that. But back to Louisiana Central. So as you see there, we are a regional EDO. We're one of 8 regions throughout Louisiana. We cover 10 parishes or 10 counties. I go all the way from Mississippi to Texas, then about an hour north and south of Alexandria. And so we're not a traditional economic development organization. And in that, what I mean is we do the industrial recruitment like most of us are familiar with, but then we also do a lot of entrepreneurship training and growing. And then because we are in rural Louisiana, we do a lot with our farmers and food systems. We're trying to grow sustainable food systems as well as teach our farmers who aren't large commodity farmers, but who are direct to consumer farmers. If you'll think between a farmer's market up to a large, grain field, cotton field, something like that, we want to get those farmers that are 5 to 10 acres and really make them sustainable, make them agricultural entrepreneurs and all of that. And then we do a lot with our farmers markets. We also do a lot with workforce development. We do a lot with our colleges and community college systems. But because of all of those things, what we realized a couple months back was that when I go out and I'm trying to recruit heavy industry into an area, they understand what an EDO is. They understand our old name was Central Louisiana Economic Development Alliance. And so they understood that. That meant something to them. But when we go to a local farmer and we try talk to them about how they need to improve their farm or why they need to do certain programs, they didn't understand why an EDA or an EDO was coming to them. They just kind of looked at us as, big brother government and really didn't want to work out with us. And so that kind of started that conversation of, well, if we're going to serve all these different groups of people and do it well, we need to be able to talk a language that they can understand. And so that's where our Louisiana Central brand came from and our name came from. One of the things that we do, whether we're working with farmers or whether we're working with entrepreneurs, is we want majority of the income that they're bringing in to be outside of that 10 parish area. So if you have a local Main Street business that you're just going to be selling within the primary city here is Alexandria. If you're just going to be selling to consumers here in Alexandria, that's fine, but that's not really who we're going after. We want companies and we want entrepreneurs who are selling outside of the area, outside of the region, outside of the state. And so all of that starts in Central Louisiana and spreads out. And so that's kind of where our name came from. But so one of the things that I really want to get into, and I want to bring Hannah in, because Ugly Mug, obviously, they helped us with our rebranding. They helped us with our campaign of putting out the new name, and social media is a large part of that. But one of the things that kind of started even before that was what we call our We Make Good Stuff videos and our We Make Good Stuff campaign. And what we found was, like, many of you go out and do BRE visits and you do your industry recruitment visits and you're talking to your existing industry. What we found was we have a lot of really good stories and our companies are making really cool stuff. But if you go in the community, most people didn't know what that was. Most people don't know what's being made here. Most people don't know the impact that this region is making across the state, across the country, and across the world. We have a Procter & Gamble laundry detergent manufacturer here. And, we would ask people, do you actually know what they make in there? And they would say, no, but they would say, my mom worked there for, 20 years. My grandfather used to work there. I've got an uncle that works there, but they didn't really understand what this plant is doing in the whole P&G system. And so what we did was, as we had gone through and we kind of developed all these different stories that we had from BRE visits, we said, we really need to get this message out here. And so we created this short video series. The videos are 2 minutes in their entirety, but they're also broken down into smaller segments, which are better for social media. And what it does is two things. So one, from a recruitment standpoint, it shows other companies that we have these big national companies and we have these big local companies who have grown up and are now third and fourth generation companies excelling. It showcases to those outside that, hey, these things can happen here. But what it also does is, from a pride of place standpoint, it shows our own people here that these things are being made in your backyard, and these things are being giving an impact across the country. And so one of the things about the video series and the way we did it is we wanted it to be personal, we wanted it to be emotional, and we wanted to have that visual representation. So when you see the videos, you may see your neighbor, you may see your grandparent, you may see your mom on those videos. You're going to see somebody if you live here on those videos, and it really builds that pride. And so we've seen a lot of the companies, a lot of the families take those videos and share those on their own social media posts. And so that just spreads the message, which has been great for us. So with that, I want to bring in Hannah, and we can kind of talk about kind of how we targeted our messaging, because we knew that just the videos alone weren't going to do what we needed to do. We knew it would have its own reach, but we also knew that we needed to focus and we needed to kind of pay for some of those ads, both on LinkedIn to reach businesses, but also on Facebook to reach others. So Hannah, I'll let you come in and kind of introduce yourself and talk about that.
Yeah, thanks so much, Larkin. I'm excited to be here with all of you today. As Brooke mentioned earlier, my name is Hannah Acosta, and I am the social media marketing manager at Ugly Mug Marketing. Gosh, that feels like a little bit of a mouthful. Larkin and I have been working together for quite some time now. I think almost 4 years total since I started at Ugly Mug. So it's been a really fun ride. We've been with them through their entire rebrand, helping them with their business acceleration system program, which helps entrepreneurs, helping them with their farmers training programs, like Larkin said, and then also helping with this recruitment of, larger companies and businesses that we're trying to get to move to the Central Louisiana region. So today, I know in your email, you saw that we are going to be talking about 5 must-dos for economic development organizations on social media. And so I want to walk through what those 5 to-dos are, but in that, I want to do a little bit of storytelling, bring in Larkin for his perspective. He's touched on some of those things, so we're going to go more in depth. And then also Brooke's going to chime in a little bit here too. So here are the 5 things that we're going to cover. Here are the 5 must-dos of EDO social media. Number 1 is to know where to hang out. All right. Number 2 is develop a strategy. Number 3 is to sell and to tell your story. Number 4 is to invest in your organization. And number 5 is to use the right tools. And there at the end, I'm going to give you some tools that you can use, whether you are someone who is balling on a budget, have a cozy budget, for lack of better terms, and maybe someone who has a full-blown marketing team within your EDO or a firm that you're able to sub all of that work out to. So we're going to touch on a wide spread of different things. So number 1, know where to hang out. Now, in order to know where to hang out, you must have a clear understanding of who you are trying to reach, right? Many of us already know the who in economic development, so I'll spare you my marketing target market spiel. My point is basically that site selectors and CEOs and vice presidents and these C-suite important decision makers that we're trying to reach, they are not standing in front of their cell phones making TikTok videos and dancing, right? Okay, they might be. Hey, they might be, but that is not where they are going for their professional resources. And so I just wanted to share a few quick stats and information directly from LinkedIn, which is the #1 platform that I recommend for EDOs to be using. It says, according to LinkedIn, 45% of content readers are managers, CEOs, VPs, and other upper ranks in companies. So this is the who. This is who we are trying to reach. The second stat says, according to the platform, 4 out of 5 LinkedIn members drive business decisions in some form. All right, we are looking for decision makers. Those are the people who are going to decide what sites to go and visit, what regions to consider, what different organizations they want to connect with. Those are the decision makers, and that's who we want to reach out to. And so where we hang out matters. Now, these are the key platforms that we choose to hang out on when it comes to Louisiana Central. So number 1 is LinkedIn. Now, when we started, we were very Facebook focused. So like Larkin said, all of our We Make Good Stuff videos, campaigns, our main focus was really to build that sense of pride for those in Central Louisiana. And we did a great job of doing that. I'm going to show you later on some screenshots of results and reach and engagement for just a few of those videos very early on in those campaigns. But then we decided, hey, this is obviously for the site selector, the decision maker too, as a part of, and to be able to use it as a recruiting tool was really important. So we said, all right, we're going to take this back to LinkedIn. And that has now become our #1, primary focus. We've also started to incorporate YouTube, because we found that, a lot of these, businesses that they want to go out and find more about the Central Louisiana region. They want to see what other kind of businesses are thriving in our community. And so to be able to have all of those We Make Good Stuff videos hosted in just one quick, easy place for them to access in a playlist is super beneficial to us. Now, the last platform that we use is Instagram. And this really is more for a quality of life perspective and to touch more on those young professionals who might be moving with their organizations. And this is very much a work in progress for Louisiana Central. We've really focused heavy on these first 3 platforms, and Instagram is a platform that we're starting to really grow in and figure out what works and what doesn't work. And, before I go any further on what works and what doesn't work, we have had plenty of successes, but we have had plenty of total flops too, right? Marketing there's nothing guaranteed in marketing. Everything is a risk. And, over these last 4 years, Larkin and I and our entire team at Ugly Mug and his entire team over at Louisiana Central, we've tested. We've run different types of campaigns. We've tried different copy, long and short form copy. We've tried different images. We've said, all right, do the people in this audience react better to still images, or do they like video better? And so it definitely is a learning curve, but hey, you have to start somewhere. So I'm going to jump into point number 2 and our second must do for economic development. And that is to develop a strategy. Now, Brooke, Larkin, please stop me at any time, because I'm just going to be like cruising through this.
No problem, you're good.
Yeah. So the second thing is to have a strategy. And we have a saying in our office at Ugly Mug that's strategy without tactics leads to analysis by paralysis, and tactics without strategy leads to a magic bullet mentality. So what does that mean? You can put together this big strategy and know who you're going to reach and know what platforms you're going to, distribute all this information on. But oftentimes, if you don't really know what specific tactics or what tools you're going to use to reach that audience and to get in touch with those people, you start like overthinking the plan a little bit, right? And then all of a sudden, the plan never gets put into place, and people don't know what they're responsible for, and things start slipping, and the campaign never launches. And so then the flip side of that is, all right, we have all these tactics, or these tools that we want to use. And I'm going to go into that in just a second. But they're not fitting together quite right. We're doing one thing on social, but we're doing another thing with our direct mail. We're doing another thing with cold calling, or email campaigns, or whatever it may be. So the key components to building a strategy are this. We have to identify our challenges. So a challenge for an EDO might be, we don't have a ton of resources. We don't have a budget. Our community is smaller and larger, or compared to some larger scale communities that we're competing against. But you also have assets, right? You have businesses, organizations that are already thriving in your community who might look like some of the other organizations that you're going after, right? Or you might have the resources or budget, or you might have people on your team who are incredibly talented in their creative, or a videographer that's great that you can work with. Those are all assets. You need to know your desired outcomes. What is it at the end of the day that we're after? Are we trying to grow our email list? Are we trying to meet and gain new leads and people who want to come to our community? And then next after that is, what are the reasons that other people are going to care about watching our video or reading our content? What is actually going to motivate them to want to reach out to us? Because Brooke and I were talking about this just the other day. We're like, we can like beat our chests all day long, and we could say, Central Louisiana, we're the greatest place in the world. Every business and organization should want to come here. But that doesn't really matter, right? What really matters is, what is it that's going to hook somebody who looks like Crest Industries, Royal Martin, UTLX, Distran, who looks like that's going to want to come here? What do we have in place within Central Louisiana that we can support businesses like that and give them reasons to want to come here and say, hey, this is specifically for you in manufacturing. Hey, this is specifically for you if you're cutting down trees and making plywood or whatever it may be.
Hannah, that's such a good point too. And I want to go back to something you just said too. So yeah. talking about having those champions on your social media. So before I came here, I ran a chamber of commerce, and we were a much smaller community. We were a one county community in central Mississippi, and we kind of did the same thing. And so whether you have a small community or a large community, you really need to have those champions, and you need to have them on both sides. So obviously, hopefully in your boards, you have some champions who will take your social media and repost it and share it, and they'll kind of tell that community pride story. And hopefully you've also got some members in your community that just love what you're doing. But then also you've got to get to your executives of your local manufacturers or your major employers or whatever, and you want them on your side so that they can again share your message. Hannah mentioned it. One of the things that we always look at is, I have this mentality of, people like me do things like this. And so when we're marketing and we're trying to reach C-level executives, I go ask my C-level folks here, hey, what are the things that catch your eye when you're looking, or, you know, whether you're on social media or whether you're watching video or you're flipping through a magazine, you know, what are the things that you want to see? And then you take that and you show that to other executives at that same level.
Yeah.
Well, and I want to quickly chime in here too, because whenever I'm thinking, you know, what does a corporate site selector want to see, especially on a website, that kind of does translate over to social media as well. And there was a recent study conducted about the top factors of 2020, 2021 that corporate decision makers and their advisors are looking for on an economic development website, which I'd correlate it to social media as well. But the top factor was incentive information, demographic information, major employers and some of their successes. Another one was searchable database and being able to see available buildings and sites. Another one was workforce stats, and even location and possible location comparison information to other areas that are very similar to yours. So those are things that people are looking for on a website. So that also makes sense that they would want to start looking for that type of stuff easily consumable on your social media.
Absolutely, because that's the kind of information that we're pushing out on social media to get them to come and find those other key components and important stats and facts and figures about your organization or your region or county, you know, whatever you're representing. So the next step after this, we're figuring out those reasons, is to actually develop the content, to develop the resources, the tools that you're going to use to push this information out. You need to develop a strategy. Part of that is saying, hey, who is going to be responsible for video? Who is going to be responsible for making sure that the posts go out on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, whatever platforms that you're using? And then the very last step is by far the most important, and that is to monitor and to see what is actually working and what is not working. Because if you are an organization that is falling on a budget and you only have $100 a month ad spend, or maybe $50 a month to spend on Facebook, man, I want that $50 to go as far as it possibly can. I don't want to waste a penny reaching people or running an ad that costs too much per engagement or per lead or per video view. And so that is by far the most important aspect of building a strategy. So the next part here is the tactics. So what are the tools that we can use within our strategy to actually reach these people? Social media posts, emails, direct mail, cold calling, you know, the tactics, the list could go on and on, right? You know, it could be networking using LinkedIn. But the question that I get asked the most when it comes to utilizing these tactics, especially social media, is like, what kind of content do I need to be posting? And Brooke and I were talking, and Larkin and I were talking about this the other day too, is we're all EDOs, we're all posting the same thing, right? We're posting those workforce stats. We're posting information about businesses in our region. You know, we're posting all of that general information, but we definitely need to be thinking about the who, what, when, and where. Who is the content for? What type of content do I share? When should I post, and where do I share it? So we already know who this content is for. We've talked that to death at this point. So I'm going to have us go to the next slide and talk about what type of content. Back one more slide. Oh, there we go. What type of content do I share? So what type of content do you need to be sharing? You need to be sharing what your target audience really wants to see. And it's oftentimes not what everyone else is doing. And so that's why what Larkin said is so incredibly important. You know, I don't necessarily, you know, as the agency that works with Larkin, I don't necessarily have those personal relationships with these C-level executives, these vice presidents, these people that Larkin meets when he's out at conferences and connecting with people. But Larkin has those relationships. And so he can go out and find out, you know, would you watch a video? What's catching your eye? You know, what are some even regions that, hey, you've been attracted to what they're doing on social media? You recently went to their website. What did you like about their website? You know, if you have that established relationship, there is absolutely no shame in asking these people that you're already connected with. You'd be surprised. They're very willing to ask or to give you answers and to give you a little bit of insight, even if it's you shoot it off in a quick email. You'd be surprised how quickly they would be to respond to those. So the next question is, when do I post? This is by far the biggest question that I get, whether it's an EDO or, a small business within Central Louisiana. We service a lot of different industries, but when should I post? And I always tell people at first, just be consistent. Show up for your audience. If that's every Monday at 9 a.m., you're going live and sharing some news updates about your region, or, every Monday you're sharing a new stat or fact about, about your region, about your county, about your state, then after that, look at the data. There is a massive amount of data that you can see when you're running ads, when you're posting on Facebook. Larkin and we sat down just last month and we were looking at, hey, these are the businesses and organizations that are represented when we're running our ads. We're hitting the right people. We had, U.S. Army listed on there. We had UTLX, some of these local businesses within our community. And we also had Deloitte. We had other site selector firms and organizations clicking on, interacting with our organization. So at first, just be consistent. And then the next step after that is to look at that data and then make decisions based on that. Hey, maybe that video didn't go over well, like we thought it was going to, and that's okay. Maybe the still image performed really well, or maybe highlighting a specific person within one of the companies in our region or in our community. Maybe that performed well. You just got to kind of test some different things out and be consistent at first.
And I think that's good to, you can have your strategy of what you think is going to work, but then by looking at that data and really seeing what changes and what people like, being able to be flexible is really beneficial.
Yes, absolutely. Larkin and I last month too, we sat down and we were looking at these videos that we had created and we're like, man, this just isn't it. This just doesn't match our brand. This isn't really going to connect with our people. And so we said, you know what, scrap it. we don't want to post those. We don't want to miss the mark. We want to stay on brand. We want to stay on message. And this just doesn't fit. We thought it was going to, but it's just not working out. And like I said, that's okay. Sometimes things are going to flop, and you just have to go back to the drawing board and be willing to be flexible. Now, the third must do for EDOs is I have it on here in parentheses, but sell/tell your story. All right. Every single community, whether you are a community of 10,000 people or 1,000 people, every community has a story to tell. And one thing that we have been really hitting it hard on over these last 3 years is this We Make Good Stuff campaign. If you want to go to the next slide, I have some screenshots here of some of the very first preliminary campaigns that we ran, how many people we reached, how many people watched, at least 3 seconds of that video, how many engagements we had. Now, keep in mind when we were running these campaigns on Facebook, which is where these stats are from, we wanted to have that sense of pride for our Central Louisiana community. So like Larkin mentioned, we had people seeing their friends or their neighbor or, their mom, someone that they know highlighted and featured in these videos. And it was such an amazing thing to see people commenting, I'm so proud to work at Royal Martin. I'm so proud to work at UTLX. Hey, tagging their friend that they saw in the video. And to be able to have that kind of engagement and then turn around and go and run the same exact thing on LinkedIn. When those people see that video on LinkedIn and then they go back and see that same video on Facebook, it's amazing the different kinds of comments. Because here on one platform, we're trying to engage and start a conversation with site selectors, with VPs, those C-level executives. But when they come and they see that pride that people in Central Louisiana have for each one of these businesses that are in our community, it's just, it ties it all together, right? We want them to see how great, how proud we are to have companies like Royal Martin, Boise Cascade, Bill Lewis Lures right here in Central Louisiana. So this next campaign is almost these same exact videos. These might be different organizations. I was taking screenshots and trying to give you a variety of things to see here. But here you can see our click-through rate, views, view rate, how many people watch 25, 50, 75, and 100% of the video. Those are important numbers for us as marketers, as EDOs, because, if somebody watched 3 seconds of my video on Facebook, I might not necessarily care so much about them. But if I'm targeting C-suite executives and site selectors on LinkedIn, and these people are watching 100% of my video, man, that is a huge asset that I have to my organization now. I can go back and hit those people with another ad, about my community, or hit them with another ad about Boise Cascade, or about Bill Lewis, or about Royal Martin, and continue to feed them the content that they're interested in. Because if somebody's watching 100% of that 2-minute long video on social media, you've got them, because we all know that we're on social and we're mindlessly scrolling half the time, or we're just commenting and liking, and we're on Facebook and we're sharing cat videos, and we're on LinkedIn saying congratulations to people who got these promotions. When we can get someone to stop and pay attention to our ad and to feel connected to our story of Central Louisiana, to feel connected to the story of Royal Martin, man, that's invaluable. That's invaluable to Louisiana Central. That's invaluable to the Central Louisiana community. And it's especially valuable to Royal Martin, because like Larkin said, these videos, we produced them, we went and shot, we talked to the right people, but now there's a benefit. There's buy-in from the company, right? There's buy-in from Royal Martin, because we're saying, hey, we're going to shoot this B-roll, and you can have the B-roll. You can have the completed video when we're done. You can use this however you want to use it. We want to use it as a tool to create pride in Central Louisiana, as a recruiting tool for other businesses and organizations that look like yours. But we also want you to have this. Here, this is our gift. So many times I hear people saying, I can't get anybody to do a video for me, or I can't get them on camera. Man, make it mutually beneficial, right?
Mm-hmm.
Make it mutually beneficial. Tell them, we're not just telling our story as Louisiana Central. We want to tell your story. We want to highlight your employees. We want to highlight your CEOs, VPs, upper level management. And so if you go to the next, oh, sorry.
Well, I was going to say one good thing about this too, by using this data, we can also shift what videos are being shown. And so like when I go to trade shows in different places around the country, we may ahead of that shift the videos that are seen on social media in that area. And I can't tell you how many times I've been walking through a trade show floor or something and run into somebody I may or may not have a strong connection with. And they're like, oh yeah, you're from Louisiana Central. Y'all make good stuff. And it's like, exactly right. And then that starts that conversation. So, use these things. Don't just post them out on social media just for consumption, but use them to your advantage. If you have meetings going in other places, if you're recruiting in certain areas, if you're trying to recruit from certain areas, you can tailor it to where they're getting shown across the country. So use that to your advantage.
And I want to make a quick comment about that. Hannah, you had a really good comment about how it's like a pride of these manufacturers getting a chance to have their own B-roll, have their own footage, be able to kind of showcase how cool it is about the stuff that they're making, and actually have that to share. And they can put that on their socials, and they can just use that as a goodwill about their company and their brand presence. And we just had a chance to do that with Bowie, Texas. We just went out and filmed a drone video, and I was walking around with the executive director, Janice Crowley, and we went in from business to business, and you should have seen their faces, being able to, they were just lit up, being like, we're going to be on camera. We're going to have this video footage to use for ourselves, and we get to post it and we get to keep it. And they were so ecstatic to use that type of footage. So they loved having us in there as a video crew, and we did drone video and everything. So it was really, really cool, but they get to use that. And I feel like it just goes back to the overall theme of, sense of community and sense of, we're all in this together, and we want to promote each other's successes and really lift everybody else up and showcase, hey, company who's looking at our community, you can do it too. And we're all here to support each other in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So future plans for Louisiana Central, just a couple of quick things.
You can't give away our trade secrets.
I know. I was like, just a couple things that are in the works. And actually, company testimonials are so important. When people are on social, Larkin said this earlier, people buy from other people who look like them. And I'm not talking about somebody else who's a girl who has brown hair, but I'm talking about people who might be in the same profession, who might be in the same line of work, who might be in the same industry as them. They're going to relate to that, right? So one type of video that we had created a long time ago and that we're in the works of hopefully recreating is, again, reaching out to these businesses and organizations that are within the Central Louisiana community and saying, hey, can we get a testimonial from you? Why do you do business in Central Louisiana? What makes it so great? Talk about the workforce, talk about the quality of the employees that we have, the opportunities for continuing education for your employees because of the partnerships that we have with Central Louisiana Technical Community College and LSUA and, all these other, wonderful institutions that are right here in Central Louisiana. The next thing is community member spotlights. Hey, are there people within these organizations and businesses, someone that works on the manufacturing floor? Is there someone who went to Pineville High School, went to CLTCC, got their welding degree, and now works at UTLX? There are hundreds of stories that we can utilize of, people who would be more than willing, more than happy to tell that story and to share it. And we need to be better about sharing those stories. And then the last component is the quality of life content. Central Louisiana is a beautiful place. I currently live in Raleigh, North Carolina. And though I love Raleigh, I do really miss Central Louisiana. We were there because my fiance was in the Army. And so we were stationed at Fort Polk, and man, Toledo Bend, Kostachey National Forest. If you love the outdoors and if you love crawfish, Central Louisiana, you can't go wrong, people. And so sharing with people that aspect of things. And I think especially with Fort Polk, there's just such a pride of patriotism, right? And people are so grateful to have Fort Polk right there in Vernon Parish, and to have Camp Beauregard right in Rapides Parish too. Showing people the quality of life, the things that are available, the activities that they can participate in, the festivals. We need to be better about highlighting those things within our communities too, as EDOs. And I think sometimes we think, oh, that's the chamber's conversation to have, or, oh, that's, whoever's putting on that festival, that's their job. And I'm like, no, we got to show these people that if they're moving their business or organization to our community, there's stuff for their employees to do. There's a workforce here for them. Or if they're relocating families, we got to show them, hey, there's beautiful homes and new developments that are happening right here in our community, and we want you to be a part of it. So that's a very important component that we're going to be, re-adding and adding more of into our strategy for Louisiana Central.
And that's such a good point, Hannah, because it doesn't matter if you are a bustling city or if you're rural America somewhere. We've all got a story. We've all got that authentic story that's unique to us. And so whether it's your food or your people or your places or your things to do, whatever, showcase them and share them. And I like the way you said it. Not only are we getting testimonials from the CEOs talking about why they choose to do business here and why their businesses are successful here, but we're getting the people in the companies, whether it's the plant manufacturer or the plant operator, or whether it's somebody on the line or whatever, because at some point, all of those people play a part in the success of that business, plays part of the success of our community. And so we want to showcase that and really tell those stories as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we've said this before, even on prior Master Series webinars, about formulating an RFP and telling that story, because, and Hannah and I, we both laugh about this, everyone's beating their chest about something. And we all have very similar stories to tell as an EDO. We all have great workforce. We all have a great quality of life. We all have, shovel-ready sites. But what is it that's actually going to speak to that site selector? I mean, I was speaking with somebody recently about a new project, and he called me from Illinois and was like, I want to move my business to Texas. I was like, well, why? Like, what is it that's motivating you? Is it the workforce? Is it logistics, infrastructure? Is it the incentives? And he was like, no, my kids go to TCU. My kids, I have multiple kids at TCU. And I was like, boo, I went to Baylor, which is in Waco. And so we have a rivalry with TCU, but it kind of comes down to just, no, like there are times when it's just that they want to be there for more than just all the amazing assets that your company or community, has. So how can you actually speak to that and pull on those heartstrings and actually showcase that you are different and that you are hearing their needs and you know that these things are important to them and you're not just here to spew the same type of information that a lot of other organizations are, putting out there right now.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is all about selling and telling your story. So the last 2 points, I'll keep them very quick and brief here, because I know if you have questions, we want you all to add your questions into the Q&A box or into the chat if you have those. So I'll make these last 2 points here pretty quick. And the fourth most important must do for EDOs on social media is to invest in your organization. You will never get a return if you don't invest. And by investment, I'm not just talking about ad spend dollars on LinkedIn or ad spend dollars on Facebook. I'm talking about your time and your energy. It does require effort and time to build out a content calendar, to go in and create graphics for your social media. It does require energy to even think about what that content could look like. And, it does require money too. If we are going to hire a videographer, if we're going to hire a professional photographer, whatever that may be, those things are so important. And the last point is to use the right tools. And like I said, whether you have a budget of $100 a month or $10,000 a month to spend on marketing for your organization, there are big roomy budget tools, and then there are cozy budget tools. All right. You can have Adobe Suite to create your content and create your pamphlets that you take with you, maybe, or your design your business cards, or you can do it in Canva, which is a free tool that we actually use all the time at Ugly Mug Marketing. It's so user-friendly. It's the absolute best. And if you want to get crazy and get some free stock images too, you can pay $12 a month and get the Canva Pro account. This is not an ad. I do not have a coupon code. And professional photographer, videographer, you don't have to have those. This iPhone shoots in 4K. Wild, people. You can go out, take a quick video, little B-roll video, slap some text on it, create it, use that as your first ad and just see how it goes. And you don't have to have all the fancy editing either. There are a ton of apps that I could recommend to you to use for video editing. You can use iMovie if you have a Mac. I'm pretty sure it comes standard on there. And then, a lot of organizations have, a major CRM and this huge database of people that they can reach out to. But, if you can connect with people like Brooke and organizations like GSLI, or if you can start kind of building your own email list using your social media tools, you can use Zapier, which is a automation tool, and you can connect those leads directly and do a Google Sheet if that's what you're working with right now. Hey, you can be scrappy and resourceful on a cozy budget. You don't have to have that big roomy budget. And those are my 5 points.
I want to go back to the point number 4 real quick, because one of the things that we found out, and it helped out with our rebranding effort, was that we were doing all of these really cool things, from farmers markets to working with entrepreneurs to doing farmers training and all these different things, our outdoor recreation initiatives, all that. And people really loved those things. Something we forgot to do was put our logo on it. So people knew the outcome, but they didn't know it was our program. And so at some point, we want to promote our community. We want to promote our companies. We want to do all of that, but you have to promote yourself too, because especially if you're in a chamber, or if you're in a dues generated profession, nonprofit or whatever, you've got to have people coming in and investing back in you so that you can do these things for your community. So don't lose sight of that.
All right, great point. So, Hannah, go ahead. I'll let you finish here.
Oh, no, I'm good.
Yeah, if you have any questions for Hannah, go ahead and shoot her an email. We also do have questions open in the Q&A. So if you guys want to pop a question in, we have a Q&A section. I'll put Hannah's email back on in a second if you missed it. But any questions that are coming in, I'll just go ahead and take a look at Q&A that we have right now. And it looks like we have Lauren Bryson, and she's from Focus, PA. And she asked, what is the best way to ask your partners, your advocates, to share or link or comment on your social media posts, videos, etc.? Larkin, Hannah, any thoughts?
So I'm sure Hannah can tell you the real way to do it, the way I do it, is I always find champions in my organization, whether they be my board members or my close friends or folks like that. And so I make sure that whenever I send something out, I send them a text like, hey, I really need to push this out. Can you promote it as well? But then you can also do things to encourage just your followers and your community to repost your stuff, whether that's through giveaways or whatnot. Hannah, you got any thoughts on that?
No, I would completely agree with you. I think reaching out to those people, whether you have a board or like Larkin said, those champion community members who can advocate and speak out for you. Heck, if your family lives in the community, ask your family to share it too. There's no shame in my game when it comes to asking people to share content on social. And then, like I said, if you have the ad spend budget to be able to promote this on, Facebook or on LinkedIn, we actually target our ads first to the Central Louisiana community, to the company that we are specifically highlighting, because we want them to see it first, right? We want to get their initial reaction, to see their comments coming through, and then we go and promote it to the larger group, right? To all these site selectors and people who we're wanting to target. And so I think that those are both great ways, organic ways. So non-paid, reaching out to your email list saying, hey, we've got this scheduled out. Would love it if you would share it. Even sending them a link to the post to share too. Make it as easy as possible for them. Mm-hmm. And then also, combining that with running it as an ad if your budget allows.
All right, so last question comes in from Liz Nolt, and she asks, what's your favorite type of episodic content you've worked on?
Well, so I'm going to answer that kind of in two ways. So one of the things that I think is, and I encourage you all to go look at them, if you will, is our We Make Good Stuff videos, because it talks about not only making that product, but why it's important that product's made in Central Louisiana and then how it has impact. But the other side of that too, and I mentioned the elite program earlier, one of the things that we're getting ready to do, and Hannah mentioned it. So we are going to do a new round of our CEO interviews and testimonies. But what we figured out is we're not just going to do a one-off video of one CEO talking. What we're going to do is we're going to create a 6-minute quality of life video that has all of these themes running through it, why our CEOs do logistics, workforce, education, quality of life, why they bring their people here, why they hire from our colleges and community colleges, all those different things. And then we're going to take that and break it down into our short 60-second videos for social media. And then we're also going to take that same content and we're going to create articles out of it. And then we're going to push them out in real short snippets through the elite program in emails. And so we're creating that same messaging across all those different avenues, but it's just being delivered in different ways.
That's a great point, Larkin. Okay, so I think we're right at time. We pushed over just a little bit more than we expected, but that's all right. Thank you guys for staying on the line. I'm going to go ahead and take us just to additional information about GSLI. Looks like my email is a little bit funky there, but we got emails and phone numbers for Larkin and Hannah. So if you need any additional information, you want to reach out to GSLI, talk with Larkin, connect with Hannah, there's our information. And in terms of the GSLI project portal, if you are interested in viewing, working, or tracking any active projects, increasing your project pipeline, I encourage you to go check out the project portal. It's a new platform, new.gsliprojectportal.com, and you can start working projects within minutes. And we have made it so incredibly easy to do so. And Larkin's one of our members for the project portal. He's an elite member, so I'm sure he can tell you a little bit more about how he's worked within the platform and what he likes about it, because he loves it. And we just thank you guys so much for your time. And I'll go ahead and just say thank you so much for joining us. Larkin and Hannah, it's been awesome. Thank you everyone else for attending, and we look forward to seeing you guys on the next Master Series or Prospect Live webinar.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Thanks, Brooke.
All right. Thanks, everyone. To that, I'm going to end the webinar. All right. Thank you.